Hello, dear attendees. We are sadly reaching the end of the 12th conference, International Conference for Teachers of English Language Teaching during COVID-19. And I have to say, it has been fantastic to have you all tuning into the several presentations we have live streamed. This morning, I have the absolute pleasure to welcome you into this session, and I have the honor to introduce Professor Suzanne Rajkumar. She is one of the 2019 TESOL International Ambassadors, Local Assistant Coordinator, Action TESOL Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, ex-president of Honduras TESOL, innovator of the CBC Codebreaker ESL game, dual immersion advocate with more than 29,000 hours using a student-centered approach on meaningful learning and interaction. Without further ado, please enjoy the session, Gamified Lessons for Social Engagement. Professor Rajkumar, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Diego. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And I understand we have a YouTube audience. So hello to everyone out there. And please be welcome to share your ideas in the chat. Diego is going to be helping me relay all that is happening. And we want to have a conversation today about something that I've found that is a particular passion of mine, gamifying lessons and for social engagement. I had the privilege to attend some of the conferences, and I listened to some of the questions that teachers are asking about how do we get students to turn on their cameras, how do we get students to participate, especially in the digital element. And I think what we're going to look at this morning will probably give you some strategies and some ideas that you can put into practice and perhaps turn tables on what is happening in digital learning, and then even help us be even more impactful when we get back to our classrooms. So, gamifying lessons for social engagement, we're going to be moving from teacher to instructional designers. So this is something, I mean, we've been lesson planning from the minute you start studying pedagogy, you've started lesson planning. The difference is now is that there's this beautiful term to describe those who plan and execute lessons, and they are instructional designers. And these instructional designers are creating games, or they are creating content in a very dynamic way. Now, we've been doing that for a long time. So the question is now, what's different? Now, many of these instructional designers, they have more financing behind them. They come from the private sector, and they're able to do things that as teachers, our budget does not always allow us to do. But today, we're going to take the lessons from that, and we're going to just renew our knowledge, renew our skills, and let us begin. So let me share my screen with you guys. So welcome to Gamifying Lessons for Social Engagement with me. And you get to ask me any 3 questions you have. So I don't know, Diego, if anyone has any questions. I will answer any 3 questions. Let's see how brave our audience is. And even if it's from YouTube, I will answer, honestly, I promise. Any 3 questions? No questions?
No questions so far.
Okay, then. So if there are no questions, let's begin. So gamifying, how are we going to do that? I'm hoping that we're able to give you some tools, and I'm hoping that you will be able to take some things back with you, and you will have as much fun as I do in this. And lessons, why? Why necessarily gamify? Why give us extra work? It's not, for me, it's not extra work. You're doing it every single time you have to lesson plan. You have to sit down with your curriculum. You have to look at your content. You have to do this. What I'm hoping is to give you ways to make it more dynamic, more interesting, and less of a chore and more of an adventure. This is what I'm hoping to bring to you guys this morning. Social engagement, we're going to look at how. Now, cognitive psychology is defining a lot of amazing things for us. So I'm going to invite you to go and read. And before we get started, I want to clarify some terms. So one of the first things we want to look at is the myths and the prejudices about games. Games are collaborative or competitive activities played according to a set of rules, and they usually have an end goal or a win state. Now, I have some examples: board games, conversation games, quiz games, role play games, strategy games, and word games. Now, why? I have those things there because I want to break the concept that, oh, gamification is only video games. It's not about making a video game. It's not only about that. I want you to have the universal concept of games in your mind. So we have games and we have gaming. And gamify is an action word. So it is about taking our content and making it, applying gaming principles and gaming dynamics to it. Gamification is the application of game playing elements to another type of activity. Now, this can be applied to anything. Common gamification elements include points, timers, badges, and leaderboards. Now, these basic tools, if you add this to your toolkit for the classroom, create your own system. So let's say that Diego is a teacher. He is Mr. Carlos. In Mr. Carlos's class, he's going to have Mr. Carlos's point system. Diego is free to create any system of points with any sort of characters or any sort of trophies. It is his point system, but maintain consistency. You can also include students in establishing different kinds of points. You can collaborate together and say, hey guys, we want to gamify our classes. So we want to make this a team effort. So why don't we come together and let's establish some points? And then from those points, we want to ask them, what do you think the penalties should be? So they establish the penalties. Now, if they do it all together and the decision is unanimous, then what you get is that they are participating in helping create the basic elements that will be in every activity that you do. Timers. I do not do any of this without a timer. Timers create pressure. Timers are it is like the secret weapon of teaching anything. It gives you that extra, and they see it, they hear it, you can make it active, and it's running out and the time is going and there's energy. Timers bring energy to the classroom, whether it's online, whether they're running to get Simon Says, whether they're coming to collect something, whether they're searching online, tick, 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 whether you have a tick, tick sound, whether you count it down on your fingers. Because I do always try to think, we have the students and we have the teachers who have access to high technology. I try to create my presentations for those who are in remote learning situations and who may have students who have low budgets and may not necessarily be able to access a lot of the links and things that we have because they may not have that. So you can also adapt some of these and even play via WhatsApp. You can create, as long as you have your points, you have your timers, you set your time, when and how, badges and leaderboards, because human beings like competition. It fuels, it drives us one way or the other. We just have to keep it a safe space. Our job, our number one job as an instructor is to keep our space safe, that every one of our students knows they can come to us, and that when we talk to someone who makes them feel uncomfortable, there's some sort of resolution, whether they come together to speak or not. And that is what we do as a game master. So as teachers, it's just switching our role from the authoritarian who is writing and creating work to do, flip the switch, and we become the game master. And now we're going to create all these lessons that we have and turn them into really dynamic games that we can have fun with ourselves and have fun with our students. Game-based learning, applying gaming principles to teaching. This is where and I want to ask a question to the audience. How many people play games? Generally, just play games. Yes or no? A show of hands, if they raise hands in the audience. If we get any yeses or no's, now whether it can be games, electronic games, anime games, whether you play games with your family. Football, yes, is also a game. So whether you're running outside, that's more physical type sport, but what you're playing. So the power of games. If you look at the body language of the students in these images, these are students that are completely engaged in what they're doing. They want to mix and match. They want to figure out what's going on. And now this is in a physical setting. Can we do this in a digital setting? Yes. Execution involves making decisions. So it's about what kind of decision-making tasks do we add to our lesson planning? And you know what the beauty of games? They do not judge you if you lose. Do not make students feel like failures. You see, the pass and the fail is what attacks that affective filter in us. It creates the anxiety. Am I going to be good enough? Am I doing a good job? Am I not doing a good job? When everything is about pass or fail, and we making a mistake look as if it's like the worst, terrible thing, then that anxiety is there in exams. The anxiety is in evaluation. The anxiety is what sometimes does not let them turn the camera on. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be recorded. They don't want to look like a fool. But if I change my digital space to a play space, welcome to Mr. Diego's classroom. We're going to be playing today. We're going to be doing vowels and sounds. So let's see how long you can do an A sound. The longest person, I have my timer. Let's do A. And let's see, is there anyone who can do a longer sound? Can someone else do it? Let's see who can do an O sound. Let's see who can, and you do your vowels. You get the kids part. No, I want to try. Can you go longer? Can you do this a different way? Can you get adults to do this? There is that possibility as well. It's trial and error. Some games will function, some games will not. But this is where we involve our students, and the teacher and the student become a design team. It is all about switching up our mindset. We are accustomed to providing content. Now, what if we include our students to help us create the content that is dynamic for them? It will also engage them. It will also bring them. In gaming, you reevaluate your losses. I want to try it again. What didn't I get the first time? And how can I do it another time? So reevaluating losses, we're changing the philosophy of making mistakes. We are changing the philosophy of failure. We are helping students move forward and develop mental resilience when we show them how to use their errors to go forward. So Diego, did we have any responses? Like how many people play games? Just adults who play?
We do have a lot of yeses, especially
Okay.
in the YouTube channel. A lot of people saying yes, yes, yes. A lot of thumbs up.
All right. So now the thing is here is it okay to play in the classroom? Yes, it is, if we do it properly. And this is where I want to this is where it's not about entertainment. Entertainment is like an extra that comes from it. It is not about entertainment. We have a job to do as teachers. We still need to get them to pronounce, to read, to listen, but I can gamify reading. I can gamify the listening. They need to read a statement with fluency. If you do it properly in 5 seconds, or you do it properly in 8 seconds, you attain a certain amount. You attain X amount of credits. You attain a certain amount of things. Of course, if you try, you will get golden points for effort. It helps the shy students make an effort. We applaud effort in my classes. My students understand that. And if you try the first time, try a second time. And next thing you know, the minute you get, they don't lose. You're just at that level. So the first level is the level of effort. Make an effort. Everyone will have points. Everyone starts, just like when you're playing a game, everyone has a basic bag of points. But as you increase levels, then you are playing the risk. So depending on what you're doing, you can lose or you can recuperate your points. So you can double. Now, this is where the gaming dynamics come in. This is where you apply your knowledge of all these mechanics behind gaming into your lesson plan. So if we're reading, identifying the main character, points. What is the plot line? Points. Who is the villain? points. What did the person do? What can they? Whoever identifies her, fact finding. You can create points. You can create systems for that. It is your choice as the educator, as the instructional designer. Guys, you are completely free to use your creativity. Games are a totally immersive experience. Immersive. Everyone's involved. Teacher, oh my God, look what's going on. We yell, we scream, we play. And guys, I teach adults. I do this with adult students. So much less imagine with younger kids. Younger kids are even more dynamic, but we find the kid in the student to get these things out of them. And this energy, because it's all about preparing the student to leave and use the language on their own. And they need to be comfortable with making mistakes and understanding how to correct their mistakes. So if they get extra points because they went to the dictionary, or they'll lose points if they go to Google Translate. But they will get points if they use an actual dictionary and demonstrate comprehension. If they paraphrase, they'll get points. If they demonstrate by just tossing something out, no. So these are things that you want to be able to contemplate. How is your class being dealt with? What is your teaching technique? And how can you add points to the different things that you want? So coming back to what I have on screen, builds learner agency and fosters decision making. Games is basically the science of choice. They'll always have to make a choice. Now, to make a good decision, what information do they have available? So sometimes you can provide the answer and say, can you show me how we got to this place? And you can be a treasure hunt of figuring out how did Einstein create the light bulb? Einstein? No, not Einstein. I'm confused. Well, it wasn't Einstein, but we have Einstein and we have the light bulb, Thomas. Anyway.
Was it Edison?
Edison, right? Edison and the light bulb. Edison, he said it was over 150 times that he tried before he got it right. If Edison had given up like number 75 or 60 something, we don't know where we would be in terms of the dark ages. Making mistakes is part of human life. How we recover from those mistakes. Games teach us how to recover. They teach us how to build resiliency, and it teaches us how to, my point of reflection, choices. It helps us explore the micro decisions that we make on a personal level and what kind of impact or macro impact that decision can have. So if I'm part of a team and I decide to go left, but it could affect all of my team, my student in the class is thinking, will my actions, what will be the repercussion of it? We are waking critical thinking without teaching critical thinking, because they need to think, they need to analyze, what decision will I make to go forward with the lesson? So keep that in mind and we go forward. Games offer, and I mentioned this before, games offer much more than entertainment. Card and board games can provide instruction in strategy, prioritization, resource allocation, and critical content, while simultaneously encouraging conversation, interaction, and critical thinking. I invite you to read and look for Coral Cap, gaming and gamification. These things are now developing. You can now find actual careers that you can go down this path if you choose to do that. You know, it's being developed. Philosophy of gaming is coming together. So for those of a generation who have spent a lot of time, there's so much knowledge and development in the gaming industry. And it is also the number one economic producer right now. The gaming industry is producing close to $475 billion in terms of play. How many of our students can find their way? Artists developing artwork, developing design, creating coding. It's an industry that is just exploding all over. Imagine launching a game where one character can earn up to $45 million because gamers are involved. And our students, this new generation of students, that's the world they're walking into. How are we preparing them for the gamer thinking? How are we preparing them for that labor market? What are we doing in our lessons to demonstrate that we are upgrading so they need to get upgraded to enter into that world? The question that I have here for everyone is, are you willing to put in the time necessary to gamify your lessons? And I know this is the hard part because we do so much work already as teachers, but redesigning is like taking, you have all the content already. If you've been doing it for years, you have it. It's just sitting down and reorganizing, like a rebirth to what it is you're doing. And I'm quite sure you will find common elements. And I am available. You can reach out to me and we can discuss and collaborate on, I mean, this is something that totally fascinates me. Play or creating choices makes learning come alive. So when we look at it, gamification not only uses game elements and game design in non-game contexts, but it also empowers and engages the learner with motivational skills towards a learning approach and sustaining a relaxed atmosphere. Now, if the one thing that language learners have is the anxiety to learn a second language, speak it, pronounce it, not look like an idiot. And if games help us create a relaxed atmosphere where the student is not focusing on, oh my God, am I going to mess up? But rather we distract them, we give them a new strategy. They need to find information, but to open the door, the key is pronouncing. To get to the other level, to collect, maybe they have to go to Mr. Diego to collect something. So they will go to him, but they need to ask him, they need to say it on the microphone. So if they don't say it, they won't get the next clue. And even if they're not comfortable, try. You will see which students bolt through the door. You will see which students stay still. You will also immediately understand which students need more help and which students are really good on your own. So it gives you an amazing tool for assessing and observing the way our students make decisions. So it's an excellent way to get to know our students better. From lesson planner to instructional designer. These are the 4 things, if you're making any notes in this presentation, these are the 4 elements you want to put like Post-its on your desk. Okay, what lesson am I teaching today? Am I going to be doing the present progressive? If I have to do that on the curriculum, how can I make the present progressive engaging and how can I motivate my students? And in order to do that, I want to provide lots of practice opportunities. Why do I need a lot of practice opportunities? That is one of the #1 mechanisms of gaming. You do it over and over, you fall flat, you get up and you try again, you try again, you try again. Practice builds our skill. So I give my students what they call practice points. I call it deliberate DPP, deliberate practice points. If they practice and they do the work, they will get points for it. And I have my leaderboard elements in a week. A student of mine should earn anywhere near to 750 points based on a variety of different tasks that they have that include from watching a video to reading a snippet on Facebook to reporting to me some facts to sharing an opinion on something. They don't have to do all of it. It's not an obligation, but they need to be aware if they don't do any, they have not practiced, and the responsibility of learning is upon them. They understand that because if they didn't practice, teacher, I said, you didn't advance. You didn't advance on the game board. You didn't send me anything. I didn't get any voice notes. I didn't hear any of the tasks. I didn't receive anything in writing. So you didn't advance. So when it clicks, okay, I'm going to look at something. Oh, after the first one, the second, by the third one, I got this interesting video, teacher. I found this person that I like and I'm reading. And then things as simple as sending me a quote in English. Find a quote by a famous person on perseverance. That can be a task. Be specific about what you want the tasks to be, because they'll practice the language and let it model what you need to do on your curriculum. So you're working with your curriculum as your guide, because you know what you need to provide at the end, and you're getting them. This is where the creating of tasks come in. You have to create the tasks and make them interesting to engage and motivate. And they can take that from their own personal life. Now, Diego, I know I've been talking a lot right now because this is something that I'm truly passionate about, but I want to know if there are any questions about, do we have any questions from the audience related to what I'm talking about in terms of instructional design? I don't want to lose our audience.
There is one actually, and this person is asking, what do you think about giving points for when doing games in the classroom? Is it okay? Is it a practice that we should encourage?
Well, yeah, I mean, points are a gaming mechanism. It all depends on how you're using it. Now, everything is about creating a safe space to play and to make a mistake. So, for example, if you create a point system, you have to be fair. If your point system demonstrates that it's prejudicial, it will not work. You have to put thought into how you do your point system. Like what elements? Okay, so for me, I keep it simple because I want my students to develop accuracy. If they write me a sentence, even if the sentence only has 8 or 10 words, I want all of the words to be well spelled. If they put uppercase and lowercase in the wrong places, they will lose a point for that. So they learn precision. If they earn all the points because they have their uppercases and lowercases in the right place, if they get the order of the sentence correct, they earn their points. They will go forward with and more. So using the points, you have to understand you cannot use it as punishment. It is a penalty. And it's very different, the mentality to punish our students, because they will know if they're being punished. It's not about power. It is about letting them know, if I put in this work, I will get this reward. If I don't do it, then I cannot go forward. It is kind of based on the work of Dr. Carol Dweck. She talks about the power of yet. And she said she stopped putting F. She stopped putting zeros and fail. And she decided not yet. She would write not yet on her students' papers. And then she said, one student came and said, Miss, why are you putting not yet? She says, because it's not ready yet. In order to get the 100, it's missing this, that. And she found that by telling students not yet, they would go back, get the information, come back to her. Is it okay now, miss? And she would give them their points. She said she had a 13-year-old tell her, I cannot believe I wasted 13 years of my life not being prepared. And that led to the Big Life Journal, which is an asset that is out there that you can look for, Big Life Journal, based upon the principles of growth mindset and these elements. So all of these things can be put into the design, because we can foster these things as educators, because we're no longer just teachers. Our roles have evolved. We are instructional designers. And what we are designing, because we have all these tools, how are we using them? How are we captivating our audience? Now, another key element that everyone has to be aware of, we cannot teach if we're not measuring. Otherwise, we will not know, are we doing a good job or not? Are we going forward with it? What is happening? So you need to put in the measurement. And right or wrong, right now we have the philosophy of world Englishes. So with world Englishes, recognizing that there are more second language speakers in the world than there are traditional native English speakers, you have a large variety of cultural aspects happening. The English that you speak in Honduras will be different to the English that you speak in Mexico, or the English from South America, or the English from the Caribbean. But we are using English. English is the universal tool of communication right now. So with that happening, how do we point fingers that is right and that is wrong? What if we don't know our cultural context of our student? And this morning, if the audience attended Professor JJ's presentation, he talked about the becoming culturally competent. we cannot assume that the student that is in, and then I presented on multilingualism. There are so many things influencing the language that we speak. It is not black and white anymore. So we need to be able to know what kind of tools are we using to measure learning progress, and whether we're measuring learning progress by how many words did they study, if maybe the students need to send definitions on something. The choice is truly yours, how you design what elements you want to test. And the last one at the bottom is provide meaningful feedback to improve performance. This is the one for me that ties in best with Dr. Dweck's work on Not Yet. Why didn't I go to the next level, teacher? Okay, well, if you notice, the subject and the subject and verb agreement is not clear, or I see that you're confused, or you drop the subject. Now the student is intent, they're listening. JJ talked about active listening. They are actively listening to you because they want to know, how do I get the points to go to another level? And what you can also add is like surprise points, bonus points, just to shake things up. So you add in some bonus points, and they said, okay, everyone, choose a color. And let's say you create like little color cards in your house, or you can use Post-its. You don't have, let's say you can get colored Post-its now. So you have your different color Post-its, and you tell them, okay, everyone, choose a color. Let's see if you choose a color. And you have 5 different color Post-its, and they said, okay, green. And you pull out your green Post-it. Okay, everyone with green, you're going to get 20 extra points. Half of the class is going to be, wait, Miss, but they didn't do anything. Why are they getting? That happens in life sometimes. Sometimes some people get a little extra push. How do you use those 20 points in the future? Okay, you get to use it as a bonus. If you get a penalty, you can use those 20 points. Now, what does this require of us as teachers? When you decide to enter into this point system and create how this gaming dynamic of every element of your lesson plan, you have to be consistent. You have to know what it's about, how you provide feedback, how you measure, and it has to be systematic. Integrating game mechanics within the learning experience is the first step to gamification. And this is something that I do, and this is something that I welcome teachers to explore, because I do believe that this is the future of teaching. I truly believe that this is where it's going. Always keep your language output in mind. Do you want them to write something? What do you want them to produce? Is it a speech? Depending on what they have to do, then that is what you are going to create the point system on. The game will be based upon, I need them to talk. So the whole exercise or this task, this adventure is going to be a talking task. Game mechanics, what is it? It's simply a method of getting the player to interact. What is the game? The game is learning English or Italian or French or whatever language you're teaching. The game is what you're teaching. The parts of the game are the different classes. And the different parts of the classes depends on how you make it. You make some easy, some not so easy. And depending on that, they earn points. I see some teachers put like a little extra bonus question in some exams. That's a nice way. You're beginning. But you can go bigger than that. What if they bring you a picture? What if they're your favorite superhero? And they talk about their superhero and they didn't have to. What if they research? You put a box of things. Anyone who gives me an extra task, this is my extra task box, automatically gets a 500 bonus. What? You can offer it. They may not necessarily do it because they have their normal work. But whoever tries to do it and they get the extra bonus, hey, good for them. You will see those who go the little extra mile. And we have, imagine the action strategy you want your student to follow. You can use these things even in online classes. Do you want them to jump? Do you want them to turn? Do you want them to block something, write something, share it, draw, call, or find? There are no limits. You are the creator of the activity. You add the power of the points to the activity, and that helps your student get to the language output you have determined that you want. And when they produce it, that becomes your biography as a teacher. You are able to demonstrate, wow, they're speaking, they're doing it. And they're like, teacher, thank you, you helped me. No, not really, you did it. You practice, you earned the points. I just created a pathway. But the work, they did it. And that is like the most amazing feeling in the world. For me as an educator, it is the most amazing feeling that I want you guys to get this fire for it. And the dynamics we want to look at, and in private corporate training, this is what you have instructional designers creating. They have the funding and they're creating role play with leadership to develop leaders, because they want them to develop empathy. As human beings, we sometimes forget how the other person lives. So if we switch the role and we say, hey, Tom, today you're going to be David, and Sally, you're going to be Lisa. Can you share your lives with each other? And one person lives in a family with maybe 7 kids. One lives in a family with 2. One lives alone. Who do you play with? What do you do? Or maybe we want to talk about dealing with grief. In the pandemic, many people have lost people in their lives. These are the hard conversations that we can bring into a game. How would you deal with grief? And what would be the penalty of it if you get stuck in the grief? We can bring hard conversations, like little obstacles to overcome, and we get our students talking about it. Resource allocation. We can take something and say, okay, all right, everyone is going to be getting a ticket to go to Canada, the USA, Australia, or England. They get 4 different tickets. You've got 2,000 euros, and you need to buy A, B, C, and D. And maybe whatever you're giving them to buy, it spends the entire budget. They need to bring a computer, they need to get some terabytes or whatever it is, but they need to do that and come back to you with a budget and report in English. How they did it, what they did. These are real life skills that they will be able to use. And we're doing it in English or French or the language that you're teaching. So this is my activity planner. I am a teacher. I love color, if you have seen anything about me. So color makes me smile and active without being bored. So I love art and drawing. They're parts of what I do. And I remind myself that what I'm doing in my games is I'm preparing my students with life skills. So every single class that I prepare, what are the self-care skills I want to develop? Do I have self-management skills into my class? Do I have interpersonal skills? Is it decision-making skills? Are there time management skills? Money management skills? You don't have to do all of these, but there are different lessons where you can plan to have different elements based on what they're reading, based on what they're talking about, based on the characters that they're looking at. And your pre-activity, what do you want them to think about? The action time, what do you want them to do physically? Observation time and play time. You can have traditional recreational games. And I have at the top the different kinds of learning, the different kinds of learners to remind myself that not everyone learns the same. And when I tried early on in my career to try and create for everyone, I found that games allowed everyone to participate. Games involved everyone, the introvert, the extrovert, the visual learner, the kinesthetic learner. It's just changed up the rules and you could involve all of the students. And materials, because we can't do all of this without knowing what we need. Am I using Kahoots? Am I creating a word cloud? What am I doing? How am I doing? These are the things that we need to look at. Now, I want to give you guys an opportunity to probably try and create your own little game and share with us in the audience. It can be anything. It can be teaching the days of the week. It can be teaching reading comprehension for intermediate students. I would like you to contemplate and share with us in the audience. We talk about manipulatives with children, but adults enjoy it just as much as well. The know-how, the values, the skills. games in the classroom should always be more than just entertainment. You know, what do you want your students to do? This is the number one question. What should they know by the end of your class? If they cannot answer number two, then we were not effective instructors. And it's a hard one for us to take, because we can say it's the student's fault, but if they didn't get it at the end of the class, we didn't teach it. It's as simple as that. And we can say that, oh no, they're lazy or they, no, we didn't figure it out. We didn't figure out how to communicate the message to get it across. And like I said, it's trial and error. There's no guarantee. Some of you will understand what I'm saying and some of you may not get it. Maybe when I'm passionate, I speak fast. So some might understand me, some may not. I do hope that the majority do, and I hope that the visuals stay with you. And I hope that the words are there to help you define. Think of actions that you want your students to produce. Those are your gaming objectives: reading, writing, speaking, listening, classifying information, reorganizing data, applying content, and then create a game to do that. Now, you don't have to reinvent games. There are lots of awesome games that are already there. This one that's on the table is similar to dominoes. They had to match parts and they need to do that. That on the board that you're seeing, that's grammar. They were doing grammar and they were having fun and they had no idea that they were assimilating grammar, but they needed to assimilate conjugation and understand the precepts. And that's what they were doing in that game. And they had to do it as a team. If they didn't do it as a team, then the points, they would not get the points. So they couldn't leave anyone behind. So they would be penalized if only some of them got it and not. So they were responsible for teaching each other within the group. So they had extra points for working as a team if everyone could explain what they were doing. So this is an example of gamifying sentence building. So creating your own sense of system in it. You can do this with Post-its. You can do this with students digitally online where they use little, they can use cards and they can write on it and show you. They can use bibliographical cards. They can cut out paper and do this. And you can mix them up. You can create teams. You give them the verb and then you give them the beginning of it. I run. And they need to take I run and they need to build the sentence, build the chain with each other. And it can be funny because each person, okay, John, you're going to be what? Juan, you're going to be when? Carol, you're going to be who? And Wilson, you're going to be where? And they need to come together and they can go to their breakout session. They can discuss what they're going to do. And then they come back and then they present. If the sentence runs nicely and they put all the places where it makes sense, yeah, they get their points. If they don't, they can get an opportunity to regroup. It all depends. You have to manage your time, truly. At the same time, if you know that you need to evaluate, work the evaluation with it. If they get the sentences correct, then it demonstrates that they understand what they're doing. So you're evaluating at the same time. The same points can serve for evaluation. And then you test later on, because I know you all have to do standardized tests in different schools and different places. So standardizing tests is something that we're going to see, I hope in the future, move on or move out. So you can have fun with something like this. Use movement, give points, be creative. This is another element that I use for gamifying evaluation. Like I said, pronouns, negative sentences. The instructions here can be whatever you want it to be. Pretty blank boxes can be powerful. I mean, they can be as creative as they want or not. You can limit them, whatever you place there. You can make, well, like if they get to a sentence down here, if they can make all these boxes elongate the sentence, they get extra points. If they just do birds fly, all right, it's a sentence. I mean, they're doing it. So, but if they say birds fly to the south when winter is coming, and they're like, wow, really, they're you can applaud their initiative for the longest sentences. And they're literally doing it from their mind. It is spontaneously creating ideas. So we're tapping into that intrinsic part of their memory muscle where they're using their experience and they're doing, and their cognitive element. Oh my God, it's just it's exciting when they're doing something like this in time. And you have a timer, of course. The timer is there and the timer is moving them forward. This is another one. This one was based kind of like on dot to dot. In real life, what I would do is that I would put the boxes. I don't know if you guys played that at school. You create dots and you had to join them. One person would join 2 dots, another person, and the more boxes you joined, that's how you won. Well, I took the basic dynamics of that and created this element. So where I have my little my little cockatoo, the cockatoo is the bonus questions. So it could be a question. It could be that the other team will answer. They have no idea what will happen when they get to the cockatoo. So the cockatoo is a surprise. So sometimes they jump it. They'll learn no, or they get the option. They can ask. The cockatoo can take away points too. So they know that. So the element of surprise is always there. My cockatoo is my game master. It presents all the ideas that they have to. So having your own little mascot or person, or these things I have developed over those 29,000 plus hours that I spent teaching that Diego mentioned. It comes from all the trial and error. And at this stage of life, with what technology allows, I have been able to develop these ideas. You can do the same thing. And it's very simple. You could use circles, triangles. If it's little kids, we can use circles, triangles, rhombus, whatever you're using, because you want them to learn shapes. They're going to say, Miss, I want the circle. I want the square. They're using because they recognize it to get the content. Well, whatever you put in them depends on how you want to engage with them, favorite snacks, or get them talking about things, etc. So to wrap up, when designing your lesson plans, you want to keep in mind achievement, evidence the progress. Make sure you can see that they're going from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Level 1 can be birds fly. Level 2 can be adding more words to it. Level 3 can be getting to a sentence of at least 20 to 22 words. They can start small and they build large. Rewards, points, badges, PLBs, you can make them. There's no limit to what your imagination can do with the reward system. No money and nothing where you have to spend money to buy anything. I do not recommend it, because eventually you'll run out of money and they'll keep wanting rewards and you won't be able to afford it. It's not about gifts. It's not about giving them a prize to learn. The reward is the learning. What they do with the points and the badges, though, it's like little trophies, and it's part of how they evidence their movement. They earned a green star, a red star. We're going to move to the gold star. If stars are boring, hearts, flowers, footballs, I don't know. It's your class, your students. Engage them in establishing the point system. What do they want? If they want to put funny things, they can have a sense of humor, a trophy. Maybe you want to go with a cottage, a raft, a cottage, a house, a townhouse, a mansion, a hotel. You have them move, so they're visualizing how a ranch could be a special kind of house, a house in the mountains. Really and truly, being meaningful, we just need to touch our creativity and create a new path for our learners. I truly hope that our audience finds this engaging. I wanted you guys to see all the elements, and I want to use whatever time we have left for any questions you have on anything that you have to do when it comes to building or gamifying your lesson plan. And remember, you can gamify anything. Your story, keep it meaningful and compelling. If you want to do a role play, you can role play an individual who's homeless, and then their compassion. How could they change the life of this person? What would be the things? Does that person have dreams? They can go through that. Role play is about building empathy. It is one way for them to explore that. If you're the president of the country, what would you do? And you can explore all the things that come with it. And that's a lesson that you can gamify. And the information and the content, you add points to it at the end of this lesson, and try to standardize your point system so that it's not painful to do it over and over. And always bring an element of surprise, funny, humor, add something funny in it. And even if it means you doing something silly, all right, if you get a point, you guys get to tell me something I have to do. They love that. They get to give you instructions of something to do. I have not encountered a class that does not enjoy putting their teacher to do something silly on their own. They just love. And that's where we model courage to them. You see, if we say no, then we tell them it's okay not to be brave. But when we say, bring it on, even though we're dying inside, we want to hear you sing. I'm like, geez, we want to sing a song by Eminem or 50 Cent. They're like, dear Lord, all right, you do it for them, but they're learning courage. We are demonstrating it in process. Time creates urgency in the game. Cannot do gaming without a timekeeper. There are lots of free time keepers, that time takers that you have. Create sounds. They love sounds. People react to sounds. Personalizing it. Get the students involved, let them choose their weapons, their teams, make it very Honduran, add different elements. You can do identity with this. You can create your own set of stuff. Yoro, use the different departments and things like that. And micro-intentions. Micro-intentions are one of the loveliest things. Little instructions that lead them to an adventure point. You build those into it. I mean, it's as much fun creating or doing it together with a group. I mean, I take my students all over. They go to Ciudad Blanca and La Mosquitia, and they have to go all over, and they're like, what? And crystal skulls that were discovered in Honduras. Like, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah. And well, they know the raining fish in Yoro, but all these things, if they come back with this information, we're building identity, and you're doing it in English or French or the language that they're learning. This is my presentation. So I don't know, Diego. I think I felt like I rushed through this one, but I
no, it's fine. We still have a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes for questions, and I have one in our YouTube channel. It's this attendee is asking if we gamify our lessons, that means changing the ideas we have about giving proper feedback.
I think it helps us become more precise at feedback. Mm-hmm. I think we become better at it. Feedback, I think sometimes we're very, very general. And like, for example, I'm a learner that if you show me where I've made mistakes, I improve. I go back and I fix that area. And sometimes I find that the students who come to me, because I have students that come to me and they're like, the teacher just said, go do this. They gave instructions. The instructions were not very clear. And the students like, I had a case where someone was told, write an essay on this. I said, well, what were the guidelines? No, they told us go and write the essay. And I have a pet peeve with flip the lesson, because I think flip the lesson there's a misinterpretation of it. Flipping a lesson, you need to be really organized to flip a lesson. You cannot, it's not about sending the students to go and investigate. If you don't know what you want them to find, you are messing them up and you are frustrating them. Because I have met quite a number of students that are very frustrated. The teacher didn't do anything. They're not doing anything. The parents are doing the investigation with the students because they feel that, and I understand the teachers because they're telling them, flip it, let them be the investigators. They will do it. They will, but if they know what they're looking for, or they know to what purpose they're looking for it, that's where the game comes in. So if you give them a purpose to what they need to find, okay, you're going to write an essay on Francisco Morazan in English. Why is he a hero? All the aspects of his life, including the parts where they say that he was quite a party animal in his time. If you bring that into it, really? Yeah, he was a real human being. He lived in France. He was influenced by the French Revolution. Okay, you're talking about these things in another language, but you're filling them with something different. And when they don't have the content, You say, hey, this content is missing. This could be improved. So our feedback becomes much better. I believe. Oh, I have experience.
All right. I think we only have just two more minutes. And one of the major takeaways I would say about this presentation is this idea of rebirth. So we were pushed to this sudden rebirth because of the pandemics, and this is just a perfect chance to continue on with this notion of gamifying the lessons. And I think you have been this has been a wonderful presentation to encourage us all in that, to pursue this path towards a constant rebirth in our teaching practice. So thank you so much, Professor Rajkumar.
You're welcome.
This has been great. And I would only want to invite our audience to continue with us. We only have one more session to go. So I would want all of you, please, to connect to the closing plenary by Dr. Jen Crandall. We have up next, and we will have the closing ceremony right after. So let's finish this 12th International Conference for Teachers of English on a high note. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.